Hi, I'm Rebecca Smith from Development Beyond Learning. Today I'm here with Josh McKenzie and Gary Lear to talk about disruptive agility and what that means in leadership. So Gary, tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, disruptive agility is about the way a leader performs within their workplace to bring about change. Now, what a leader needs to do is to disrupt the workplace to bring about change, first of all. And then they need to be agile to move with their organisation to get a result that is really meaningful and is on target and is in line with their goals and their values of the organisation. Disruptiveness is about changing things from what they normally are to something totally different. And the agility is the ability to adapt to that change. So as leaders, what we really need to be able to do is be disruptive, change our organisation, bring about change within the organisation, and at the same time be agile to respond to what the outcomes of that change is.
If I can just add to that, Rebecca, I think when you look at the organisations that are really succeeding, the ones that are really changing, their game and having a really big impact, it's those that are thinking about how can they disrupt their industry, or those who are thinking about how can they compete in a really disruptive way, whether it be banks moving all of their personal banking systems into mobile apps so you can bank anywhere anytime. 5 years ago that was disruptive. When you look at the largest taxi company in the world these days doesn't own any taxis, etc. Like, there are so many examples these days of businesses and organisations that are leading their industries because of disruption, because they are disrupting. So then you've got to ask the question, well, what do their leaders got to do? They've got to disrupt how the organisation thinks, the culture, the strategy, and what it means to be part of that business.
One of the things that stands out for me is there are so many companies where a leader has been someone who has said, I've got to keep this company stable, I've got to keep it on track, I've got to keep it going in the way it's always gone. Look at Kodak, look at BlackBerry, and look where they are today. Now, Kodak is coming back a little because it's starting to disrupt industry. It's starting to move in a different direction. But it took many, many years to do that because it was a film-based company. It didn't go anywhere. And now their leaders are coming out and saying, let's be innovative, let's do something different, let's really disrupt the industry. And it's starting to come back.
So Josh, what are some of the ways that HR teams can be disruptive and agile in their leadership programs?
I think HR teams have a huge opportunity to support the executive team in responding to what's going on at a macroeconomic level and a macro-social level. The world we live in today, it's so cliche, but the problem with cliches is that they're often true. The world is so different today compared to what it was 5 years ago. Oil's hovering around about $30 a barrel. Millennials are coming through the workplace, and a recent report says that they'll occupy every consequential leadership position on the planet in the next 10 years. It is a very, very different place. So HR teams, first and foremost, and those responsible for leadership and management development, have an opportunity and a responsibility to help their executive teams build the right sort of organisation in that environment. So here are some things we think that we're seeing in the organisations that we work with, really start to think about. One, I think leadership and management development needs to move away from being trainer-led and more towards being learner-led. Yeah. So the old school idea of leadership development programs, of people going into a classroom, listening to some expert on some subjective topic that has something to do with leadership, and then going back to work and then HR hoping that they're going to be better leaders, is gone. We've found through many, many years those types of models can be actually disempowering, not empowering, because they're not actually tapping into what does the learner need, what does the learner believe they can be as a leader, and then empowering them with the responsibility to become that person in the right sort of supported environment. So that's around being less instructor-led and more learner-led. I think the second thing HR teams can do is start redesigning leadership and management development programs to get people out of the classroom and back on the job. And I'm going to be blunt and say that you can't develop leaders in the classroom.
No, agreed.
Leaders don't develop in the classroom. Leaders develop on the job in moments where they are tested.
Yeah.
And so leadership and management development programs need to be much more about creating, tracking and supporting those moments where that new leader or that new manager needs to apply a new skill, a new set of beliefs, a new behavioural pattern, a new suite of skills if necessary. And the program needs to be about those moments. Sure, use workshops, use e-learning, etc., but use it around those moments, and then set yourself up to be able to track them. And I think the third thing is, and it's sort of building, I guess, off tracking, is I think when we get to leadership and management development, we need to stop measuring what people think and start measuring what people are actually doing. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for measuring change and development through 360 feedback, which is all about what people think about someone. Mm-hmm. It has its place. It can be a valid data point. I'm all for asking the learner themselves, what do they think about their development. There's a spirit of being learner-led in that as well. Yeah. But they are just two data points. I think we need to stop only measuring what people think and start measuring what people are actually doing on the job differently in those moments when they're being tested, in those moments where they're being uncomfortable, because when we strip back learning and development, we all know that people develop outside of the cliche comfort zone, not inside it.
So Gary, DBL works with companies globally, having offices in UK, in Australia, in the US, and also in Asia. What do you say that DBL is doing differently in the disruptive space?
One of the things we've had to do ourselves is be disruptive. We've had to think of ways of being disruptive. We've had to think of ways of disrupting our organisation, and probably I'm the one of the world's worst at being disruptive in our organisation, because I come up with new ideas, I come up with changes all the time. Now I throw that to the team and we sort it out and work out better ways of doing it. And one of the things we've done is introduced an app, we've introduced engagement dynamics, we've introduced a web-based system. I'm not going to put those out there as answers, but I think DBL can help in helping design a program that fits perfectly with your organisation. I think we've got tools that we can use.
Well, there you have it, disruptive agility in leadership, the importance and also the solutions. Thanks for joining us.